I'm the husband of one wife, the father of one son. Life should be simple for me, but I'm somewhat of a musician. My name is Hovig. Welcome to my podcast, Drop a Note. My grandparents had a parrot, an African grey parrot. Her name was Akoo. The story goes that my grandpa got it from a business colleague who was traveling from Africa to Lebanon back in those days. Akoo was smart, very smart. She knew our family members by name, often calling out, or should I say, shrieking out the name of the person coming into the apartment and mimicking the sound of their footsteps, the sound of the key being inserted into the door, the squeaking sound of the hinges as the door opened. An amazing sound effects jukebox right in that cage. She would speak too, mimicking funny phrases in Armenian she would hear us say during the day, with the precision timing of a stand-up comedian. But what I remember most is her singing. Well, sort of singing, more of a combination of whistling, humming, and scatting, but she would always be swaying her head with the pulse of the song. Her favorite tune was the news theme from the BBC, that's the British Broadcasting Corporation, the World Service, the radio station. My grandfather would often have the station on to listen to the news, and Akoo would join in with her whistling and full-body swaying rendition every time it was played at the top of the hour. Those of you who grew up with the BBC World Service, like me, you may feel nostalgic hearing it now again. My mother tells me that Akoo and I came to this planet around the same time. A bit like non-identical twins. We were both born in 1971, but from different sets of parents, I should add quickly. Akoo could have joined me in today's episode. African grey parrots have an average lifespan of 60 years, and some even go on to live in their 80s. But when my grandfather died of a heart attack, Akoo, like the rest of us, was heartbroken. Grandma said Akoo was not the same after that. She stopped singing, and a short while later, she died herself. That was over 35 years ago, but over the years, Akoo kept popping in my head every time I heard the BBC News tune, and her distinct voice still crackles in my ears today. Another musical animal voice still reverberating in my memory is that of Fezzi, my first dog. Her full name was Fezziwig, named after Charles Dickens's character in A Christmas Carol. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig were the jolly employers of young Ebenezer Scrooge, you may remember. We had just done the musical version of the story of the timeless classic that Christmas, so when my friends called to say they had an abandoned puppy outside their house, and they couldn't keep her because they already had a few pets, not to mention too many kids, I decided to adopt her and call her Fezziwig. Just because it was a funny sounding name, and she actually reminded me of the lady who played the part of Mrs. Fezziwig in our musical. Though I probably shouldn't have said that, but I mean it as a compliment, really, though not sure who to. Anyway, Fezzi was a very clever dog, a very naughty dog, and a very adventurous dog. She was the first proper pet in my life. And I should add the lives of my family members back then, because I used to travel quite a bit for work, and everybody had a hand in raising her in my family, which is basically a formula for disaster, really, because everybody had a different idea about how to raise her. And Fezzi took full advantage by cozying up to the ones who spoiled her most. I have so many stories to share about Fezzi, and I'm sure I will in other episodes. But what I want to highlight today is her role as one of my co-writers for the original songs of the Esther musical we produced in 2001. Co-writer? Yes. Many evenings I would sit on the piano at home to write the music, and Fezzi would lie next to my feet and listen. I would talk to her. I would ask things like, what do you think of this part? Or is this nice? If she looked interested, I would take it as a positive endorsement. If she got up and walked to the door, well, I had to scrap what I had done and start from scratch again. You laugh, maybe, but The creative road we artists travel on is riddled with potholes of insecurity and doubts, so even a minute wagging of a dog's tail can go a long way to lift our spirits and keep us going. But more seriously, there was one song from the musical that Fezzi had a very strong opinion about. It's called Live in a Dream. It's sung by Esther and the other girls in the King's Palace. Every time I worked on that piece and got to the last part of the chorus where the lyrics go, "One day I will be queen," Fezzi's ears would prick up and she would join in and sing a howl on that high note with the word queen. She did this every time. Not sure if it was some resonant frequency from the particular notes of that chord that made her sing. And to be honest, I'm not sure if she was howling in approval or sheer pain, but I decided to go with the former and put that part in the song. And it turned out to be one of my favorite ones of the musical. It's one of the tracks on my first Peaceful album. The link is in the info on this episode. Have a listen and experiment with your pet or partner to see if you get a similar response to Fezzi's. But now, let's talk to a human. Someone who has been using her musical talent and filmmaking skills to highlight the growing and worldwide problem of stray dogs and the everyday, ordinary people who are coming to their aid. Okay, it's time to welcome Christina Georgiou to Drop a Note. Welcome, Christina, all the way from Nicosia.
I'm very happy to be here.
Now, Christina, it's great to have you. We were just talking before starting the interview that we haven't actually met face-to-face, but I've followed some of your work and very interested in, obviously, your music work, but also media work and film and so on. You wear so many hats and doing so many things. I wanted to start by asking you how it all began. I guess as a child at some point you got into music, but when did you know that you wanted to do all these things that you're doing now?
Essentially, I started playing when I was around 4 or 5, and then I registered for music classes. But I decided that this is what I wanted to do as for a living at around 17. I was torn between many things, but I think music eventually won me over. At that point, I was into classical music alone. I was experimenting with composition and so on, but I never saw it as a viable profession coming from a small island in the middle of nowhere with not much of an industry to begin with. It wasn't a career option initially. The career option came after my studies when I returned from the UK. Someone proposed to me to compose music for a film, and I really liked doing that. I really enjoyed it, and I started considering that sort of career path
right.
After that.
Going back to when you said you started 4 years old, classical piano more, was that something in your family that you had, like your parents and so on, that were into music themselves, or was it something you had to sort of chart your own path?
Well, I have 2 older brothers, and they also were studying the guitar. But to be honest, it just came natural because we had this really tiny Casio keyboard, if you remember those, that had like 12 keys maximum. And I would play anything that I would hear on TV and on the radio. So it was just a natural consequence, you know.
And so you played by ear from early on, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Now, composition-wise, you said 17-year-olds when you sort of started delving into composition, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How did it begin for you? Was it that you always had tunes in your head that you were able to work on, or was it a special inspiration that's got you started to compose to start with?
I've always found that for me, inspiration comes from sound rather than from a concept. So I may hear a specific sound and a melody will pop up specifically for that sound. So I work a bit, it's a bit strange how I work.
No, it's fascinating because it's interesting how different people have different catalysts, maybe for ideas. I mean, I tend to write music based on a story or something that really touches me. But your approach from the sound angle is very interesting. So yeah, well, it's working for you. You're doing music. You're composing for movies. Now, I have to say, Christina, I'm a bit jealous. I have to admit this because I'm very honest in this podcast. I'm jealous because this is one of the things on my bucket list to write music for a film eventually. I do musicals. That's my thing, but never for a movie. So when I see all these movies you're writing music for, I got a bit jealous. You said the first one you did really got you excited, and it must be. I mean, talk us through that process of writing for a movie. I mean, do you watch clips first? Do you have to know the story, or was it sounds again? Give us an example maybe of how you wrote a piece for a specific movie and how it came about.
Well, sometimes I am involved right from the screenwriting phase, so I know the story and the director may ask me to compose something even before I see anything. But ideally, I would want to watch the whole movie, hopefully a cut close to the final one. And depending on the scene that jumps out more, I will start working on that. It's much easier when something speaks to you to put it down in music, you know. So that's usually how it goes. And I draft something with a specific instrument. Again, for me, it's not so much the melody that comes first. It's finding the right sound, and once I find that sound, then the rest follows, and more instruments come in, and I send that to the director. If they like where it's going, then I complete the orchestration.
Right, you immerse yourself then in the whole process of orchestrating and so on. Do you often have to work on the timing when it comes to the action happening, or if there is such a thing? How does it work, and how challenging is that?
Definitely, that's why I prefer to work on final cuts if that's possible, because when you have a scene, you're supposed to identify the beats of the scene, as we call them. So when something important is happening that has to be synchronized with a change in the music or an accent in the music or something happening, or maybe a pause in the music. So you sit and note these down, and then you have to find the tempo of the music that would fit not necessarily all of those beats, but at least the most important of those. And based on that, you will start structuring a melody that would fit the sequence, and that would not overwhelm the sequence, especially if it's a dialogue sequence. That's the toughest one, because you cannot do anything too melodic, because it will sound like a third person talking.
You want to be there and heard, but not taking over as one of the main actors, I guess.
Yes, it's usually a lot of the music is supposed to go unnoticed. You may watch a whole movie and just remember one or two melodies, and the rest of it you don't remember. But it's there and it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's
a bit ironic that you work so hard on music and the goal is for it not to be noticed, huh?
It is, but I kind of find it very challenging when that happens, because it's working in a very subliminal way. So in a way, we're manipulating people in a good sense.
And I guess eventually when it's released and you have the soundtrack album or whatever, then people can sort of listen to the music by itself and then realize when they heard it in the certain scenes. Yes, fascinating. Have you had any situation where your music's changed the director's approach to a scene? Did it work that way at all, where he heard or she heard the music and say, well, actually I can do something different with the actual cinematography to fit the music?
Yes, it has happened that they changed the editing based on the theme. Or usually what happens is that when I compose for a specific scene. But sometimes they like it and they take the music and they fit it in another scene. And they build the edit around that scene. They can't really change the cinematography at that point because they've already shot everything. So it's just about the editing and the timings and the speed and all of that.
Are you using live instrumentalists always, or sometimes? And do you orchestrate having in mind specific musicians?
Oh, that's a good question. It depends on the budget of the film, because there are some films that can't really afford to bring in musicians to play live. So in those instances, I rely solely on samples, but they're very good samples, I have to say. But when possible, I try to bring at least one instrumentalist to play something, to just so that the music has something more alive to it. In other instances, I have, after I complete the orchestration with samples and it's approved by the director and the producer, I start the score writing, part writing, and I bring in musicians to perform. Usually it happens by bringing them one by one. So even if it's like a quartet, they don't really play together. Because I want to be able to manipulate each instrument separately, so they each come in separate.
Which has its own challenges, I guess, with timing and blending together. But I know what you mean, to have control on individual sounds. Yeah. Do you always play the piano part yourself?
Not always. Sometimes, if it's more jazzy stuff that are not my area, I rely on other pianists, so I'm open to that.
I want to segue now, even though I have more questions about this. I want to segue to your documentary, The Stray Story, because you've been working on it for many years, 6-7 years I was reading. And it's a story that you've produced and directed and wrote the music for. And it's been very successful, winning 13 awards already, international awards. I watched the preview and very interested in it. Can you tell us a bit more about it? Stories about dogs being abandoned and the challenges you faced there.
Thank you for taking me there, because it's an important time for what is going on. We are going through the worst period of abandonments of dogs in Cyprus. So the documentary doesn't only stay in Cyprus. We actually traveled to Romania, the US, the UK, and Greece. And I followed one main volunteer in each of these countries. So there are 4 characters that are the main characters that we connect with. And alongside those, there are all the networks that they have so that they manage to do what they're doing. So essentially what I wanted to explore with this documentary wasn't just the issue of stray dogs, how it's created and how we can solve it, but also the human condition at this day and age, the consumerism that comes with all of this abandonment, because it is a matter of consumerism. It's a matter of feeling that everything is disposable, that we don't want to put in the work and we just throw something away and move on to something easier or fresher or more pleasant. So it touches upon a lot of issues that are indirectly linked with the stray issue. I would say that the stray issue is just the inciting event for touching upon other bigger issues in terms of society and mentality. And I purposely wanted to investigate this issue in developed or developing countries, because obviously in poor countries where people themselves have issues, financial issues and survival issues, obviously animals will sometimes come second, but you would be surprised. But in developed societies or developing societies, when we have the comfort, we've got the financial means, what is it exactly that is stopping us from being humane and doing the right thing? So that was the main question behind it.
Did you notice big difference between the different countries you went to?
There are differences in how the problem began, so where it originates from, but the situation is quite similar in many ways. Some countries have different solutions, some are worse, some are better, some are completely theoretical. But I would say that it all comes down to education and awareness, and this is why I feel that this documentary is very important, because this is what it's aiming at. It's aiming at explaining to people how easy it is to stop this problem from happening just by being more responsible guardians of anything that they tame.
Yeah. And it's very interesting that you sort of go deeper into the human issue, and greed or carelessness or consumerism. The documentary has been a success. How happy are you with it? I mean, if I say, Christina, 1 to 10, 10 being amazing, 1 being, terrible, as far as your expectations about how this documentary turned out, be honest and tell us, what number would you give it?
Based on the means and the effort, I would say I am happy by 7 to 8 out of 10, which is a pretty good number considering I'm a perfectionist generally.
Yeah. Based on impact so far and acceptance at the different festivals and so on, how has it been?
It's been a very warm reception in all of the countries that we have screened so far. And we are now going online in mid-July. So that's something to look out for. But what I would say is that also during the making of it and afterwards, it's very tough to convince people that a film can actually make a difference. So they say, you spend all that money or all that effort for this and it's just a film, whereas you could actually go to shelters and help and do other things and whatever. But the truth is that the reason I started doing it was because I was going to shelters and I realized that as much as anyone would help, unless people become aware of what they're doing that is causing the problem, it's never going to stop.
Yeah, and you're delving into the actual issue, and hopefully it resonates and changes attitudes all over. Can I come to the Cyprus angle in this now? Because you are from Cyprus, obviously, originally, and then you went and studied in the UK. Were you tempted to stay there? How difficult was it to come back to Cyprus and start your career here on a small island?
I actually wanted to come back after I finished my master's because I really felt like I wanted to put everything I had learned into action before venturing into a PhD. So it was gonna be for a couple of years. To be honest, when I came back, initially I felt really strange. I felt like a fish out of water. But slowly I started building a circle of people who were like me and had the same interests and had the same ambition of pulling Cyprus further, and I really feel that, and one of the reasons I stayed and I chose to stay was that I feel that what we're doing here is much more important than something that would be self-fulfilling for me alone. So I think there's a place for us here to really offer something back to this place that raised us. And at the same time, my family's here, my friends are here, and that's an important part of staying sane in this profession. So yes, for me that comes first. I don't really feel that I have to prove anything by having a big career or becoming famous or anything like that. I'm more of a behind the scenes kind of person.
I need to touch a bit on your music itself. I know we talked about the composing, but you've released different music. You're on Spotify and different platforms. Usually at the end of the podcast, I play an excerpt of the music we're talking about. So I will play one of your pieces. Is there one that stands out for you, something that is extra special? Can you tell us about that?
I have a special liking for a song that I wrote for a movie called Conveyor Belt, which is called What I Need. And also there is this lullaby that I composed for a documentary called Beloved Days that, I don't know, it touches like a part of me that's very personal.
So maybe we can do an excerpt medley of What I Need and Beloved Days at the end. Quick question, what's next for you? I know you're still busy promoting the Stray story and so on, but any other upcoming projects you can sort of give us a teaser about?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've just finished composing music for an Italian-American co-production called Sicilian Holiday, and hopefully that's going to be out within the next few months. And I look forward to it because it was a completely different style of music, more traditional Sicilian, so I had to do a little bit of research for that. And it was all recorded by performing musicians here, so that was also really nice. Other than that, there is a documentary from France that I'm supposed to work on in October, and a Cypriot documentary that should be in by August. But at the moment, the documentary promotion is taking up most of my time. It's incredible how time-consuming pre-producing and post-producing a film can be. The actual making of the film is really the fun part. The rest of it is very bureaucratic.
Yeah, but essential, I guess, to get it out and to as wide of an audience as possible. Well, I hope it goes really well. We'll talk again, I'm sure, but it's exciting to hear about the projects coming up. Tell us one last thing about Leo. Now, Leo is your dog. I think I hear it in the background. Tell us a bit about his story, because he's someone special for you.
Oh, yes. Leo was a stray dog that was captured by the Nicosia municipality, and I saw this post on Facebook that he was going to be euthanized unless a foster home was found. So I had lost my dog a year before, and I wasn't ready to, get a new dog. But I was missing the communication that you have with a dog. So I said, okay, I'm going to foster this dog. So I fostered him, and eventually I took him to his new family, and he didn't really take it very well. So they called me after 20 minutes and said they didn't want to have the dog because he obviously wanted me. And I went back. That was in Paphos. So I went back, and it was like a lot of tears. It was like a movie. I told him, okay, you picked me, so we're gonna make this work. And it was difficult at the beginning because I was still not ready, and he was a very lively puppy. But we've been together for 9 years now, and I really can't imagine my life without Leo.
Our dog Simba came to us out of the blue just before the first lockdown started. Our son was always wanting a dog, but we were hesitant because my wife had some allergies with animals, and so we were too nervous to have an animal. But then when Simba came to us at that time, it just felt like it has to work. It felt right. And then for a few days we had to ask around everyone to see if it belonged to someone, and we had to take him to the vet eventually to check if he had a microchip in him. And on the way, our son was praying in the car that there wouldn't be a microchip so we could adopt Simba. But there wasn't, and then the rest. And it's been a godsend for us because it's especially during the lockdown days, having Simba with us and was amazing, and it still is. So. Yeah, so it's nice to have Leo and Simba in our lives, besides the humans that are wonderful also. Christina, it's been great to talk to you, and thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing from your vast experience of music and composing and making films. And actually, you're also university lecturer teaching communications and music and screenwriting. So a very busy lady. We appreciate your time. And I hope that many who listen today, they will be interested in what you've done and follow the Stray story, especially when it's out. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Maybe that's all I need. Oh, da 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 da.
You can listen to much more of Christina's music and visit her website and the Stray Story website and find out much more. I'm posting all the links in the information of this episode of the podcast. Now, before I go, you may be wondering what happened to Fezzi. Well, she died a very unexpected and unexplained death when she was 3 years old. I was devastated, really heartbroken. But after a while, I wrote in an email to some friends that maybe it was time for me to find a two-legged companion instead. Now, one of those friends, Hovig from Sweden, asked his brother Niklas whether I was referring to adopting a monkey. This became a running joke between the three of us. So it was very ironic that a couple of years later, while visiting them in Sweden, it was thanks to them that I met my Anna. And I'm sure that up in animal heaven, both Akoo and Fezzi whistled, howled, and celebrated in style when I asked her to be my queen. Hey, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Drop a Note. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you would tune in next time when I talk again about music and life and everything in between. Until then, my name is Hovig, and I am somewhat of a musician.